It would take 2 weeks to get a new one. If you need a phone right away, you can rent one for 50,000 won. He said to himself. Even renting a phone cost 50,000 won. That was too expensive for Jinwoo, thinking about his money situation. No one really calls me anyway. If the group couldn't reach him by phone, they would contact his house directly. So there was no point in spending money on a rental. Jinwoo shook his head. I'll just wait for the new one. Understood. We'll send your new phone to your house as soon as it's available. Thank you. Jinwoo got up. He had finished all his tasks. Earlier that day, he had completed his daily quest without any problems, and getting the new phone set up was quicker than he thought. After leaving the association building, he pulled out the gold key from his pocket. It's time to figure this out. The key's information appeared in green letters. Item Dungeon Key Acquisition Difficulty. E Category Key, a key that unlocks a secret area for adventurers. You can find this near Exit 3 of Hapjeong subway station. The key came from a mystery box he got after completing a daily quest. At first he didn't think much of it, but when he saw how hard it was to get, he realized it wasn't an ordinary key. This was why he left the hospital. A key to an instanced dungeon. Or not. It was still a dungeon. Jinwoo had many painful memories tied to dungeons. He once took part in a low-level raid, and got hurt really badly. He spent a week in the hospital but survived because of his teammates. If he used the key to go into the dungeon, he'd be alone. After thinking about it for a long time, he decided, I'll just take a quick look. If anything goes wrong, I can always run away. He had been running 10 kilometers every day, so he thought getting away would be easy if nothing else. Jinwoo was wrong. Knock knock. Where did this wall come from? He knocked on an invisible wall and shouted to people passing by, but no one helped. People went about their daily business. Some walked toward Exit 3 to enter Hapjeong Station, but disappeared from view once they reached an unseen barrier. It was as if Jinwoo were in a different world. When he tried to push his way out, he received another message. Ping, you cannot leave the dungeon. You have to choose between killing the boss or using a teleportation stone. He kept receiving the same message over and over again. The key vanished when he went through Exit 3. When he realized something was wrong, and tried to go back, the entrance was already blocked. He expected a gate or secret door near Exit 3, but it was nowhere to be found, making things worse. Unlike most dungeons, he couldn't just leave on his own. This isn't a normal dungeon. Jinwoo sighed, and looked around. The walls were covered in vines, and the air had a strong smell of something rotten. Every now and then he heard an animal howl in the far distance. The dungeon wasn't near one of the exits at Hapjeong Station, Jinwoo thought. Instead, the station itself had become a dungeon. Jinwoo pulled out a steel sword from his inventory. Ping. Steel sword owned by Kim Sang-shik. Gives you 10 more attack points. All exits were blocked, and there was no way to get help from outside. His only choice was to keep moving forward. Jinwoo took a deep breath and walked down the stairs quietly. He looked around cautiously, but didn't see anything out of the ordinary. He stayed perfectly still for a moment, listening carefully, yet he didn't detect anything unusual. Even so, it wouldn't be smart for him to lower his guard. Weaker magical creatures often stay hidden because they need surprise attacks to succeed. Beyond the restrooms there were small shops inside the subway station. The old beat-up shops reminded Jinwoo of empty buildings. The faint light from the flickering tubes made everything feel eerie. The completely empty corridors and stores gave him a strange feeling. Zuds, some lights buzzed like they were about to go out. As he walked down a hallway where weeds popped up through cracks in the floor, Jinwoo felt a little spooked. It was super quiet, but he could tell someone was watching him, and then there was the smell. The smell of a dead animal filled the air. It was rotten and full of flies. Jinwoo knew this smell well, because he often visited dungeons. The creature smelled like an animal. Jinwoo didn't sense it anywhere. It was acting like a predator, hidden and waiting to attack. It was waiting for the perfect moment to strike. So Jinwoo decided to give it a chance. He turned around on purpose, showing his back, and began walking away slowly. Animals attack when an opponent turns their back. Animal-like magical creatures aren't much different. Jinwoo had taken 3 steps when crunch. Something burst through the display window of a clothing store at the end of the hallway. It landed on the floor and immediately lunged at Jinwoo's neck. Crunch. Ready for the attack, Jinwoo swung his sword in a wide arc as soon as he heard the noise. It was like a reflex. Shunch. The sharp blade slashed through the creature's jaw. The monster fell to the floor with a loud squeal. Gin gin. It was a huge wolf with bright red fur. Its snout had been hurt badly, and it was wriggling in pain on the floor. When Jinwoo looked closely, he saw its name floating above its head, just like the centipede in the penalty zone. Steel-fangled lichen. This time, the name was white instead of red. He knew he had to act fast. The monster was hurt and couldn't get up, giving him the perfect chance. Jinwoo sprang into action. He charged forward and swung his sword down, cutting off the creature's head. The wolf-like monster let out a loud screech as it fell to the ground. "You have defeated a steel-fanged lichen," Jinwoo shouted in excitement. But his celebration was short-lived. Two more creatures that had been hiding behind broken windows came out. Now, it looked like the first one had backup. Jinwoo's eyes widened in surprise. The two new threats growled and charged at him, baring their sharp teeth. Jinwoo tightened his grip on his sword, ready for the next fight. In his excitement, Jinwoo hit his sword down too hard, and now it was stuck deep in the floor. He tried to pull it out, but it wouldn't budge. One of the lichens jumped toward his face. "Oh no!" he shouted as he ducked just in time. His attacker flew over his head, and hit the ground hard. The stone floor cracked when its sharp teeth dug into it. Those fangs were definitely not just for looks. There was no time to be amazed, though. Another lichen was charging straight at him. It didn't seem like he could pull out his sword in time. Damn it! Jinwoo gave up on the sword and threw a punch at the lichen rushing toward him. Whoosh! His fist moved with an unusual speed. Thwack! The lichen's head burst from just one punch. The body without a head slid out after hitting the ceiling and landed with a thud. Jinwoo looked at his fist in surprise. He couldn't believe how strong he had become. The werewolf, seeing this, began to back away nervously. Tucking its tail, Jinwoo wondered if it was because he had used all his points to boost his strength. As Jinwoo stood there, he couldn't believe what just happened. The giant wolf-like creature in front of him had stopped moving. He heard a familiar sound like a ping from a game. "You have defeated a steel-fanged lichen," the voice said. Then another message came. "You have leveled up." Jinwoo was surprised. Did I really level up? He asked himself. He quickly checked his stats. Name: Jinwoo Sung, Job none, HP 25, Fatigue 0, Level 2, Title none, MP 22, Stats: Strength 32, Stamina 11, Agility 11, Intelligence 11, Perception 1 of, and he had no ability points left. His level really did go up, and it looked like each of his stats had increased by 1 point. Skills: Passive Skill Unknown Max, Level Willpower Level 1, Active Skill Level 1. That meant rewards from quests weren't the only way to improve his skills. He could also get better by leveling up. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Something impossible had just happened right in front of him. His heart raced with excitement. Plus, leveling up gave him even more ability points. Finishing a quest gave him 3 ability points. Leveling up gave him 5 points. He didn't really like not having the chance to pick where they went, but leveling up seemed better for increasing his stats. Quests were limited to 1 per day right now, but he thought there might be no limit to leveling up. His level went up just by defeating 2 of these creatures. This was how it worked in video games. People often level up quickly when they're just starting out. Jinwoo was only level 2. He seemed to be at the lowest rank, but Jinwoo was different from others at his level. His strength was already very high, above 30. Since each level adds 1 point to his stats, Jinwoo's strength was as strong as someone who is level 20. Imagine if someone with a level 20 ability went hunting in a level 1 area. They would be way too strong for that place. Even though Jinwoo's strength stat is 3 times higher than when he started at 10, it feels like he is more than 3 times as strong now. His punch alone was proof of that, showing how much power he really had. Strength at 10 compared to strength at 30. His power had increased 3 times over, but was actually way stronger than that. Maybe his power grew much faster as he got stronger. He also moved much faster now. Before, he couldn't have dodged the lichen so easily, and his punch wouldn't have made that sound. Then again, it makes sense that my speed would increase when my strength goes up. Increasing his strength built muscle, which boosted both his power and speed. The fight with the lichens had shown this. But what would happen if he improved his agility? He really wanted to know. But there was no way to try it now. To make it work, he needed to raise that stat. However, he thought it was a waste to use the ability points from quests on agility. Why waste points there when increasing strength would boost both his power and speed at the same time? That left only one other option. He had to level up as fast as possible. It was the only way to improve his agility. Every trip starts with one small step. If he keeps adding a little more effort each day, he will notice a change someday. Jinwoo pulled the sword out of the ground. Should I get going then? There was one more wolfman left to defeat. Where did it go? The wolfman that had been there just a moment ago was nowhere to be found. Jinwoo looked around carefully, but couldn't find anything. It must have gotten away while he was busy with something else. Looking back, the creature's tail was down, and it seemed like it was waiting for a chance to run away. Jinwoo made a frustrated sound. He was upset about missing an opportunity to earn more experience. He was about to move on when he suddenly thought, these things must have essence stones, right? He stopped quickly. Magic beasts found near gates usually have at least one essence stone inside them, sometimes more. If you are lucky, you might even find a rune stone. Rune stones and essence stones could sell for a lot of money. Rune stones had secret abilities that hunters could learn, while essence stones had many uses. It's true that hunters didn't just raid for the money from their group. They also wanted those stones. Jinwoo was no different. Jinwoo felt let down because he didn't find what he was looking for, even though he had a good day. Just to be sure, he cut open the dead lycan's stomach. But it was pointless. These creatures were nothing like the magic beasts he usually encountered. He had been in many dungeons before but had never seen a beast that looked like a wolf. Jinwoo wiped his hand clean as he stood up. He noticed something shiny in the lycan's mouth. He pried its jaw open. One of its teeth was shining. Jinwoo reached out his hand and a message appeared. You found an item called the Lycan Fang. Do you want to take it? He said. Yes. The message read a lycan's large sharp fang. Jinwoo could put the fang in his bag or sell it at a shop. He looked at the fang in surprise. Wait, there's a shop. This system wasn't very helpful. You had to figure things out on your own, as you went along. The biggest problem had been the penalty quest where he almost got killed, and no one told him why. He clenched his fists in anger thinking about it as he called out shop. He expected a store with a big sign saying shop run by someone to pop up out of nowhere. All that appeared was a holographic screen with green letters, similar to the other messages. There were 2 words, buy and sell. It was pretty simple. Jinwoo decided to try buying. He didn't have any money, but he was curious about what the shop had to offer. Unfortunately, the system was strict. You cannot buy anything at your level. He was used to being treated unfairly by places that required payment. Fine, he muttered. Then he looked at the option to sell. A screen appeared, asking if he wanted to sell an item called Lycan Fang. Sure. His inventory screen popped up with a sound like jingling coins. At the very bottom of his collection list, Jinwoo saw that the gold section now had a 20. Yesterday that space was empty. Now it showed 20 gold. This wasn't real money, so he couldn't use it in the real world. He also couldn't buy anything in the shop yet, so he had no idea what 20 gold could get him. He thought maybe it was like getting something from a lower level dungeon. Jinwoo decided to play it safe and go get the other wolf creature's tooth, but then he smacked his forehead as he remembered something. Oh no, I smashed its skull. He shrugged and turned around. Jinwoo was troubled by the loss of 20 gold, even though he wasn't sure how much it was worth. He didn't think it was worth wasting time searching for a fang in the dark. But then something happened that made him forget all about it. When he turned around, he heard loud growls. Grar, 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 grar. The Lycan he thought had run away had come back with more of its kind. Jinwoo's face lit up with a happy smile. There were clearly about 20 of them. Eureka! Is this really the right time to say that? Oh well, whatever. The word just came out. Because he was so excited. He gripped his sword firmly. I'll defeat all of you, he said angrily. The Lycans took a step back, scared by the fierce look in his eyes. This man was driven by greed, and ready to fight. Jinwoo jumped toward them. His level increased rapidly, just as he had thought. After defeating all the Lycans on the first floor, he had already reached level 7. He had gained 5 levels. A strange message appeared. After he defeated the last Lycan, which tried to run away with its tail between its legs. You have acquired title Wolf Assassin. Jinwoo wondered what this meant. A title was a special recognition for skills like hunting wolves. When fighting an animal-like monster, his powers would go up by 40. He checked his stats and saw that his title had changed. His name was Jin Woo-sung. He had no job. His health points were 76. His fatigue was at 3. He was level 7. His new title was Wolf Assassin. He had 81 magic points. His strengths were as follows: Strength 3, 7 Stamina, 16 Agility 16, Intelligence 16, Deception 16. He had no ability points left to use. His skills included a special passive skill that he had mastered. He also had willpower at level 1. His active special skill was Dash, which was at level 1. When fighting against animal-like monsters, his abilities would get a boost. It only worked on specific enemies, but a 40% increase was still helpful. Would this also work on animals in normal dungeons? If so, Jinwoo could defeat magic creatures with ease. Either way, he had collected some useful items. He found 34 lichen fangs, 2 dull daggers, a traveler's cloak, and a transportation stone. Some items were even inside the bodies of the dead monsters. The daggers were not very sharp, and did not work as well as his steel sword. The traveler's cloak was more like something to sell than something to wear. He sold all these items and got over 1,000 gold coins. He had 10 and 60 gold now. But he wasn't really happy about it. No matter how much money he had, he didn't have anywhere to spend it. All he had left was the teleportation stone. Back at exit 3, he had complained about leaving and received a message saying he could leave. Once he found a magic stone, he now had 2 choices. The stairs leading down to the second underground floor were right in front of him. He held the teleportation stone in his hand. Should he move forward or step back? The old Jinwoo would have waited for another chance without a second thought. That was how he had survived so many tough battles, even with his weak abilities. People called it luck, but it was really because he made smart choices. Now things were different. He didn't want to go back. If he gave up now, he felt like he'd never move forward again. I've spent my whole life running away, he thought. Shouldn't he try facing what was next for once? He put the magic stone that could take him anywhere back in his pocket. His footsteps as he went down to the second floor were as quiet as could be. Unlike regular dungeons monsters, here came back after being defeated. Jinwoo killed the ones on the first underground floor while new ones appeared on the second floor and vice versa. He kept switching between the first and second floors fighting monsters until he stopped leveling up. Since I don't know when I'll get this chance again. After a while he even remembered where the monsters would appear and how they would attack. A monkey falls from the ceiling. He quickly dodged the sharp claws of the monkey-like monster dropping down and stabbed it in the chest. Eesk! Cats on both the left and right side. He cut off the heads of the 2 black leopards attacking him from either side. Renegra! You have defeated a razor-clawed Briga. You have defeated a black shadow Razan. You have defeated a black shadow Razan. That was the end of the second underground floor. Jinwoo had passed the floor again, but his stats had stopped increasing at level 15. It looked like he could not progress any further on these floors. Strength 45, Stamina 24, Agility 24, Intelligence 24, Perception 24. He had gained a lot of progress by level 15. His agility was almost at 25. Jinwoo noticed the difference between strength and agility. When his agility went beyond level 20, having high agility didn't make Jinwoo faster. Instead, it made everything around him feel much slower. It was like watching a slow video. When a monkey jumped down at him, or a leopard leaped his way, they seemed to be moving in slow motion. It felt like everything was moving in slow motion. This made it easy to avoid monsters and successfully pull off attacks. As promised, he had become more agile. Speed is relative. As his agility increased, the gap between him and his opponents grew so much that from their perspective he seemed to be moving at superhuman speeds. If my strength and agility keep increasing, this combo will be amazing. That was what Jinwoo thought about the agility stat. So, Jinwoo turned his head. What should I do about this? He stared at the stairs leading down to the third underground floor. He had stayed on the first and second floors even though there was a clear path to the third. Something felt off. As his senses grew sharper, he noticed a eerie feeling coming from below. It seemed like something strong was waiting there. Jinwoo knew this without even seeing it. He remembered the message he heard when he tried to leave the dungeon. It said you can't leave until you defeat the boss or use a magic stone. The big boss, Jinwood had been going back and forth between the first and second floors to get stronger so he could fight it. Even after all that preparation, he still felt nervous standing at the top of the stairs. Jinwoo lightly slapped his cheeks. If he made it this far, he at least wanted to see what the boss looked like. A little stress might actually help him stay alert and ready for what was coming next. Jinwoo gripped his sword tightly with both hands. He took slow, careful steps down the stairs. Boss round 5. Why did the stairs feel longer than before? His lips felt dry, so he licked them. It was much darker than the first 2 floors, yet he could see just fine. Perhaps it was because of his improved perception. His vision seemed sharper now. He moved further down carefully until he saw the subway tracks below. He saw where the tracks should have been, but there were no rails. The space was covered in dark water. What is that? It did not look like subway tracks. It looked more like a river or a small stream. This all happened as Jinwoo stepped forward to get a better look.